Welcome to the Day 2 video of graphing systems of equations in slope-intercept form. Your work today and your answers today will look exactly like they did for Day 1. The only exception is your equations are going to be a little bit more complicated. So they might have distributive property in them, and they might have more than one or two steps to get y by itself. These notes should look familiar. You should have jotted these notes down in Day 1 of solving systems by graphing. If you don't have these notes in your notebook, can't find them, or didn't take them down yesterday, pause the video and jot them down. So just a very quick reminder. Step 1, you need to write the equations in slope-intercept form. Quick reminder that M is your slope and B is your y-intercept. You graph both equations on the same sheet of paper, and the intersection point is the solution to the system. This last step is an awesome way to check your answers. So on a test or quiz, you'll know if you got your answer right by quickly substituting in your solution into both equations. Here's our first system. So in this system, you can see that I've got two equations, and both of them are going to require a little bit of work to get y by itself, to put the equation into slope-intercept form. I'm going to start with the first equation. So I'm going to rewrite 5x minus 5y equals negative 20. And remember again, I want to put this in slope-intercept form. So what I'd like you to do is jot this down in your notebook, pause the video, and put this equation into slope-intercept form. Then hit play. Compare your equation in slope-intercept form to mine. So my equation is y equals 1x plus 4. You might have just put an x, or jotted down x plus 4 instead of that 1. If your work looks different than my work, pause the video, look at my work, compare it to yours, and see if you can find your mistake. From here, what I want to do is I want to label my y-intercept, and I want to label my slope. So my slope is 1, but I'm going to write that as a fraction, 1 over 1. My y-intercept is 4. So I've got my slope, my y-intercept, and my equation. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video, graph this equation on a piece of graph paper. Hit play once that's complete. You can see that I went ahead and I graphed my equation. So here's my equation, and here's my equation jotted out. So it's y equals x plus 4. Again, I want to remind you to use a straight edge when you're graphing yours. Using the technology on the iPad here, it's almost impossible to get a perfectly straight line. Okay, so my next step, now that my first equation is jotted, is I am going to go ahead and solve my second equation for y. Now this equation almost looks like it's solved for y, because y is by itself. But what I need to do here is distribute my negative 2. So pause the video, distribute the negative 2, and compare your work to my work. Okay, compare your equation to mine. My equation is y equals negative 2x plus 10. Just in case you have a positive or a negative 10 here, remember that a negative 2 times a negative 5 is positive 10. Right, I'm going to go ahead and jot down my slope. My slope is negative 2 over 1, and my y-intercept is 10. So here's my equation, and here is my slope of my y-intercept. Again, I want to point out that I'm going to color code my graph today so you can keep track of what equation is what. All right, my y-intercept here is 10, so I'm going to go ahead and plot 10, and my slope is negative 2 over 1. So I'm going to keep going down 2 and right 1 until I found my intersection point, which appears to be this point right here. So I'm going to grab my straight edge. Again, for you it's going to be different. And I'm going to go ahead and connect these points. I'm going to label my line, y equals negative 2x plus 10. Now, you should remember from yesterday that I do not have my answer yet. I've got a great graph, I see an intersection point, but I need to write down my solution. My solution appears to be 2, 6. So this is my final answer. Without that, I don't have a solution, so I need to make sure that I include that. All right, this is our next system that we're going to solve by graphing. As you can see, neither equation is solved for y, so we'll need to make sure we solve for y to get the equations into slope-intercept form. So the first equation, I'm going to write here, 3 plus 2x minus y equals 0. What I'd like you to do now is to solve this equation for y, write down the slope in the y-intercept after you hit pause on this video. Once you have your answer, hit play and compare your work to my work. Okay, compare your work to my work. This is the equation in slope-intercept form. 3 plus 2x equals y. My slope is 2 over 1, and my y-intercept is 3. Now go ahead, press pause on the video, and I want you to go ahead and graph this equation on a sheet of graph paper. Hit play when you're ready to check your work. Once your equation is graphed, compare your graph to my graph. If you need to hit pause to make that comparison to make sure we have the right answer, go ahead and do that. Just want to point out here that the slope is 2 over 1, the y-intercept is 3. So I put a point at 3, then I went up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1. And I want to point out one other thing too. You should make sure, again, you use a straight edge to connect your points together. All right, the next equation, we need to solve for y. So I have 21 minus 7y equals 10x. Again, just like last time, go ahead, pause the video, put this equation in slope-intercept form, write down your slope and your y-intercept. When you have all that information, go ahead and press play to check your work, compare your work to mine before you graph. Okay, if you solved the second equation for y, you should have gotten y equals negative 10/7 plus 3. My slope is negative 10/7 and my y-intercept is 3. So now if we have the same work, go ahead, press pause on the video and graph. If we have a different answer, press pause on the video and see if you can find your mistake. Okay, now that you have your graph, compare your graph to my graph. You should see that our intersection point is the y-intercepts. They both have a y-intercept of 3. So right here is our intersection point. So of course, I'm not done. I don't have a solution until I write down the intersection point as an ordered pair. So my solution is 3, excuse me. That is the solution to the system.